What's happening, family? It's Cat Sports again, back for another afternoon with my people. Now, as usual, before I get started, let me give a shout out to the JBT community. It's just boxing talk. We're a group of people who just love to talk boxing. And we're always looking for others to join us. And you don't have to have a podcast. The only requirement is you just have to love to talk boxing. That's all. That's all. Miss Cass, hashtag JBT. Al Booger. What's up, AB? The Boxing Menu Podcast Plus. Ray Patterson, straight out of New Jersey. What's up, Ray? Melanie Queen 27. Salute, good to see you once again, Queen. Thomas Hill, hashtag JBT. What's up, T Hill? Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cat Sports, the Box Storian. This is the Tuesday afternoon edition. Still early in the week. Got a big one planned for you today. It's going to have a highlight of Black boxing history. Sort of like a timeline of Black boxing history. Back for some more boxing talk, of course. Because you know, if it's Monday through Friday at 2 o'clock, it's the Box Storian. That's me, your friendly neighborhood box Storian. Okay, 2 o'clock shorty. Mr. Put it in the chat. Remember that? How's everybody doing this Tuesday afternoon? Week, like I just said, today is highlights in Black boxing history. We got a Remo idea tomorrow. Since I have to fall behind those fire hashtag Let's Talk Fashions on Wednesdays, I'm going to do a show on one of his ideas every Wednesday. Can't wait till they get in here and I tell them about that. Yeah. Make me follow those fire hashtag Let's Talk Fashions on Wednesday. That's the day I'm going to use his ideas, Wednesday. And we got one tomorrow. It's boxing in New York. We're going to do a history of boxing in New York. Look at some of those historic venues like the Garden, the Mecca, the Polo Grounds. Remember Fred Sanford from Sanford & Son? Remember Fred Sanford said he fought at the Polo Grounds. He said 1946 or something. But the Polo Grounds, Yankee Stadium, that was Ali Norton 3 was fought there. The second Norton robbery. Yeah. They gave Norton the first fight, but, you know, they robbed him the last two. The closest Ali came to winning was the second fight, but I still gave that to Norton. And guess what? In the third fight, of course, they had the 3 regular judges, but they had 3 newspaper men at ringside unofficially judging the fight. And guess what? All 3 of them gave it to Norton. So come on, man. All 3 of them gave it to Norton. So yeah, they robbed him. But yeah, Yankee Stadium, site of some legendary classical fights. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. And plus, we're going to talk about some of the top boxers that came out of New York, you know, born in New York. And then Thursday is going to be a show on the legendary Kronk Gym up there in Detroit. And we're also going to talk about legendary trainer that founded the Kronk Gym, the one and only Emanuel Stewart, trainer of the Hitman, and many others came out of there. Milt McCrory, Tyson Fury, Lennox Lewis trained there, Hector Camacho, Julio Cesar Chavez, they all went through there. Some of the big fighters that came from there, of course, the Hitman, Milton McCrory, Meldrick Taylor, Mark Breland, yeah, them guys came out of the Kronk. And the Kronk is run now by Emmanuel Stewart's daughter. But we're going to talk about all that Thursday. I'll mess around and give you the whole show today. And then, of course, Friday is going to be, the profilers on Fridays. And this week is Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, this has been Four Kings month, remember? The Hitman was first. And then Roberto Duran, The Hands of Stone. He was second. Last week was Marvelous Marvin Hagler. And to finish it off, last but certainly not least, Sugar Ray Leonard. That's Friday. Yeah. Another big week. Today we're going to touch on some highlights of Black boxing history. Not go into it in any kind of deep detail, but just, highlights of it. Come through the years, up to like through the 90s. I don't come up into the 2000s too much. That's not history. That stuff just happened. Like I said, if the box historian is still doing this 20 years from now, then I'll be doing profiles on Tank and Canelo and Bud, all those guys. Yeah. But right now it's time for the old retired guys time. That's how we do it over here at Cass Sports. Mike Masick in the building. What's up, Mike Masick? Today is Black boxing history, like a timeline of it. Of course, we always start about 2:30. Give people like Lonnie Lee time to get here. Remo always late. And like I was telling everybody, Mike, tomorrow is one of Remo's ideas, boxing in New York. He wanted to talk about some the boxers that's from New York, but I expanded it a little and do a little history of boxing in New York and look at some of those famous venues. The New York State Athletic Commission was one of the first sanctioning bodies back in the 20s. Yeah, probably was the first. It was before the NBA. The NBA was formed to offset the New York State Athletic Commission because they were the only one out there and they were kind of like running things. So 13 representatives from various states got together and formed the National Boxing Association to give the New York State Athletic Commission a little competition. Okay. And the story in 1962, the NBA became the WBA because boxing was getting so international at that point. They went from the National Boxing Association to the World Boxing Association, 1962. Then they recognized the WBC, which came about in 63. Yeah. That's how that went. And then, of course, the other two came along later. 80s, IBF and WBO. But yeah, this is Canelo and Jaime Munguia fight week of Cinco de Mayo. And of course, next Tuesday is that bad man, the monster. Yep, next Tuesday. You got to get up early now because, the monster don't come out of Japan and, they go by their time. They don't cater to nobody else. They don't set their fights according to U.S. time. They say, no, we go on our own time. You got to get up. So I think the card probably starts about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and the monster will probably fight about 6 or 7 normally. Yeah. At least I remember it was about 7 something when he attacked Schoolboy's butt. I never forget that. That was a shock. About 7:30 when he him and Coolboy fought that week. So yeah. But that's next Tuesday. His little brother's on the card, Takuma. That's smart because Monster knows it's going to be a lot of eyes on him in his fight. So put his little brother out there, who's also a world champion. They also have a cousin that fights. He fought the same weekend as Takuma. I think it was in March, something like that. Yeah. So fighting family. I think their father trains him. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But he had something to do with him over in the corner. He probably one of the smart ones, and he wants to be involved. But he probably got a real trainer over there too. You might need to talk to Bill about that. Teofimo Senior. Yeah. But we got some big fights coming up. Nobody's talking about Bam Rodriguez and Juan Francisco Estrada. That's the 29th. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And another good fight coming up is on June 9th. Ann McQueen was telling me about that yesterday. Patrick Teixeira and Xander Zayas. That's going to be a barn runner there. Yeah, I like Xander Zayas. Yeah, guy is talented. Mm-hmm. Of course, I got my slide presentation for you today. Got a good one. We're going to get into it about 2:30. But how's everybody doing this Tuesday? Week starting back up okay? Mine is okay now that I'm here with my people. Look forward to 2 o'clock every day now. Got the mayor of these YouTube streets taking time out of his busy schedule to come in here. Oh, I got another name. The Box Storian, 2 o'clock shorty. Mr. Put It in the Chat. And now, Mr. Old Timers Show Dodger. Okay. I'll add that to my list. Because, the mayor of YouTube give you a name. You got to take it. I took the Box Storian, so Mr. Old Timers Show Dodger. That's me, too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. I'm going to get up there one time and surprise everybody. I'll listen though. I'm on the outside listening in, on the outside looking in, Yeah. But yeah, they got enough talent up there and knowledge. They got Bruce Gass and Marvin McDowell, Coach Kenny, Bruce Gass, Boxing Jazz, and more. I'm supposed to be getting in touch with Coach Kenny, and he's going to be on here one day because he's a historian in this boxing thing too. He was on here a couple Saturday nights ago. Coach Kenny and Coach Calvin was on Little Cat Sports. Did y'all see that? Yeah, they was right here on my show. Mm-hmm. I did the post. We do a weekly post fight after the fight. It was my turn a couple weeks ago. We didn't do it this past weekend. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Yeah, I had Coach Calvin and Coach Kenny on. Yep. It was fun too. Jay Hardcore, Aunt McQueen, Wemo, all of those guys were here. Senior came through, but he was on he was at some kind of fight party or something. He stopped through briefly though. Yeah. But this is Cass Sports, the Box Storian. Monday through Friday, 2 o'clock. We're going to be talking at boxing history. And we're going to get started in about 5 minutes on this, what is the name of this show again? Highlights of Black Boxing History. It's Tuesday, April 30th, yeah. Highlights of Black Boxing History. I'm just going to go through, started like in the, really 1700s and came all the way forward. Just talk about some different boxers, different things that happened over the years, that was significant. Some things that Black boxers achieved in the sport and did in the sport. Like Thomas Mullino was really the first Black boxer. He came from slavery, like I told you before. A slave could actually win his freedom from boxing if he won his plantation owner. The slaves used to go from plantation to plantation fighting other slaves from other plantations. And the masters and their sons and people would come from all the different towns around with the Sunday best on, and come and watch the fights. And they would be betting a whole lot of money. Just Let's Talk Fashion, Remo, #JBT. People would bet a whole lot of money. And if you wasn't your master enough money, you could earn your freedom. And that's how Thomas Mullino became free. Yeah. His master's son made $100,000 bet on a fight. Right, that was in the 1700s. 100,000 then is like about $3 million now. So he won his master's son all that money, and he earned his freedom. And they gave him $500, which is about $12,000 now. So thank you. I win you $3 million. You give me 12,000. Wow. But I guess that was a lot to a slave back then. I'm looking at it from a black person in 2024's perspective. But from a slave in 1700s, $12,000 and your freedom was a lot. So yeah, he won his freedom and went on out into the world and started earning money for boxing. Not winning it for his master and his son. But we're going to get into that. And Joe Louis and Sugar Ray and the Murderers Row fighters. Of course, you got to touch on Ali, Don King, all of it. Black boxing history. That's what we're doing today. In a couple minutes. But Remo, you didn't hear the idea came up, the latest idea I got since you in here. Now I was saying, I have to follow those fire hashtag Let's Talk Fashions every Wednesday. Guess what I'm gonna do on Wednesday? I'm gonna use one of your ideas every Wednesday. If you drop that fire show in front of me every Wednesday, I'm gonna follow it up with one of your ideas that you gave me every Wednesday. It's gonna be a Remo Ideas show. Now, how about that? Okay, so keep the ideas coming. And starting this week, tomorrow, it's the boxing in New York. Talk about some of the top fighters that came out of New York and history of boxing in New York and some of those fire venues. The Garden, the Mecca, Polo Grounds, Barclays, Yankee Stadium. Yep. So every Wednesday, you will be hearing a Remo idea. Because he puts down that hashtag Let's Talk Fashion on Wednesday, and I got to go behind that. And so I use his idea. And matter of fact, today at 3:45, we're going to have a preview of hashtag Let's Talk Fashion tomorrow. Remo let me forget last Tuesday. But I got it written down right there this week, so I won't forget. Because I want to know what's going on tomorrow. Head start on everybody else. You know what I mean? Yeah. Get a head start. Remo, I would appreciate it if you could email those ideas to me over. Did you get my pound for pound list? I emailed that to you, Remo. A men's pound for pound list. Probably gonna be the best one you get. Out of everybody's. It's a good one. Bud Crawford was one, Monster was two. And I ain't gonna tell you the rest of it. But salute to Remo. Let's Talk Fashion, Remo. Hashtag JBT. Oh, he got them. How you like it? That pound for pound list. Don't show it to Al Booker because he's gonna disagree with the whole thing. What's up, Al Booker? In the building. Salute to everybody. All the regulars in here. Like Mason, Thomas Hill, Melanie Queen 27, Ray Patterson, the Boxing Mania Podcast Plus, Al Booker, Miss Cass, hashtag JBT. And Remo. Let's get ready to talk about this black boxing history. Like a timeline, highlights. It's not real deep into it, We're going to touch on it over the next 2 hours. I'm going to take you right up to the Voice's doorstep. And at 4:00, we're going on in there. To hear that, see, the Voice builds over there. He don't cook, he builds. And we're going to go hear that build today. Another fire build from the Voice. Part of the JBT community, JBT is a fire community. We're just getting started. And this fire already, like Jay Hawk always says, he can't wait until 3 years. I'm saying I can't wait to see what it's going to be like at the end of this year. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, let's get ready. Let me get to. I'm gonna turn this down a little. Get my slideshow ready for you. Get to the top, and we're gonna get into it. Okay, I gotta go up some anyway. But this is Tuesday. This is a non-Pro Box week. Didn't we have Pro Box last week? I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, we had Pro Box last week. Yeah. So this is a non-pro box week. But this is Cinco de Mayo week though. And the monster is next Tuesday. I just don't understand how nobody is talking about that Bam Rodriguez and Juan Francisco Estrada. I bet you my list will be the only one that has Bam Rodriguez on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got Bam on it. Bam is a bad dude, I'm picking him over Estrada too. Mm-hmm. Bam had that belt before. He was at 115 before, and then he went down to 112. But now he's back up to 115 again. Going up against Estrada on June 29th. Or is it May 29th? Not sure. I believe it's June 29th. This schedule is just so fire, man. Remember, as 2023 was ending, we were asking ourselves the question, how could 2024 possibly could 2024 possibly top 2023? I think that question has been answered, yes. With this schedule coming up and what we had so far, 2024 has topped 2023, okay? And you know what 2023 had, but hey, 2024 has topped it. And that August 3rd card just by itself, I don't think we had a card like that in 2023. We had some good cards, you know, headliners like Bud and Earl and Monster and Cool Boy. But that's the entire card full of main events. That August 3rd card, that's loaded with main events, man. You know, Virgil and when I first saw it, I just kept saying wow after every fight. You know, Bud and Magic. Bud better be careful, because Father Time is lurking around his windows and stuff. You know, he's on his way down his sidewalk toward his door. Bud better be careful. One of these days, Father Time is going to walk in that door. You know, Matrimove is dangerous. He's one of them Eastern European guys, right? Very skillful guy. But I don't think he can handle Bud. But I'm just saying, Bud better be careful. Okay. Okay. What's the name of this show again? Just kidding. Highlights of Black boxing history. Okay. Y'all ready? Let's get ready to get into it. Anybody else coming to the building? No. Unless they just listening. The Warriors, as Jay Hardcore like to call it. Everybody hit that like button. Likes look kind of slacking there. Yeah. Let me check again. Maybe it was my eyes. No. Okay. But hit on the appreciation button. That's the like button in the JBT. Okay. And black highlights of Black boxing history. Okay. Now, let me take a drink before we get started. I wish Bill Knuckles was in here, because he would definitely let me know if the music was too loud or not. You know, he'll tell me to turn it down. And I've been talking about that Bill Knuckles boxing over the last couple of weeks. I'm really getting interested in that. Especially back in the old days. Like the 1800s, around in that period, yeah. Very interesting sport. Okay. Now, the history of boxing has been filled with many dedicated, influential, and inspiring Black boxers whose fight for recognition has led the way for fairness in the sport. Okay. Now, many Black fighters have proudly stood as symbols of aspiration, success, power, and resolve. The pressures and systemic challenges these fighters have faced make their fights, wins, and titles all the more awe-inspiring. Now, some of them overcame the systemic odds to become champions, while many other great boxers were denied deserved opportunities. Perfect example, the Murderers Row guys. Okay. Now we're going to start with Thomas Mulliner, the guy I was telling you about. Yeah, he was way back then in the 1700s. There he is. You know, back then you got a lot of drawings because, you know, they had guys that could take pictures. Remember, they used to get under that little blanket and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, sometimes at the fights, they didn't have a photographer. They would just have an artist there drawing the action. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, I keep losing my place. Where's my bookmark at? There it is. Now, in the late 1700s, Tom Mulliner, that's him on the screen. He's widely considered to be the first black boxer. Okay, and he was born into slavery on a tobacco plantation. Now, he experienced significant suffering under the farm conditions, but he slowly developed himself into he developed a pastime and interest in fighting. Okay, and he eventually earned his freedom through boxing. Remember, I was telling you about that in the opening. Earned his freedom through boxing. And he went on to challenge Thomas Cribb, who was an English bare knuckle champion of the time. Now, he lost a very controversial fight with Cribb, but the fight is regarded as one of the most important fights in boxing history, especially black boxing history. Okay. And Mike Tyson said, Mulliner is the first black champion who earned his freedom through fighting. Thomas Mulliner. In time, we're going to do a little profile on him later in the show. Go deeper into his journey. You know, once he got his freedom and everything, yeah. We're going to look. He had 2 fights with Thomas Cribb, actually. First one was very controversial. He was cheated, okay? But you know, he was a black man boxing in the 1700s during slavery time, so you know. And it was kind of rough back then. We're going to get into it. Then, over a century after Mulliner, in June 1890, a monumental boxing moment took place. George Dixon on the screen. I did a profile on him before. Excuse me, remember? He was a Canadian. George Dixon became the first black man and the first Canadian to win a world championship title in boxing. As a matter of fact, he was the first black person to win any kind of championship in any sport, okay? Any kind of world championship in any sport was George Dixon, Canadian. And the fight where he won his championship, it took place in London, England, okay? Because over here, they weren't really letting black fighters compete in championships. The white champions would not fight the black champions, so they had to go over to England. And if the champion was English or something like that, they would fight the black fighter, okay? So this fight took place in London, England. His nickname was Little Chocolate. He knocked out a guy by the name of Nuke Wallace in the 18th round to become the first black man to win a world championship in boxing and the first black person to win any kind of championship, okay? And this made Dixon a catalyst for future black prize fighters. And this was a big step for minority populations, okay? It bypassed American segregation laws and set up a solid foundation for the black boxers of future generations to be taken seriously in the ring. Okay, and like I said, George Dixon was also the first black athlete to win a world championship in any sport. Okay, so let's go, up to the early 1900s. Dixon also went into the early 1900s, but a few other things was happening by then. He started in the 1800s. in the early 1900s. That was a unique and vital time for black boxing. Now, at the start of the 20th century, Joe Walcott, nicknamed Barbados, rose to prominence on the boxing scene. Now, this is not that's not Joe Walcott. That's Joe Gans. Oh, I got those pictures mixed up. That's Joe Walcott. That's not Jersey Joe Walcott. That was the first Joe Walcott, but that's who Jersey Joe Walcott named himself after. You know, his real name, Jersey Joe Walcott's real name was not Joe Walcott. He named himself after this guy, Barbados Joe Walcott. Lonnie Lee in the building. Salute, Lonnie Lee. How are you today, bro? Today is like a timeline through black boxing history. Lonnie Lee, hashtag JBT, that is. Can't leave that JBT off. That's important. Just boxing talk. That's all we're doing. Just boxing talk. Okay. Now, this guy here, Barbados Joe Walcott, first Joe Walcott. Okay. He came on the scene in the early 1900s. Now, he was the first black fighter to win a championship in the 20th century. And that happened in 1901. He knocked out Jim Ferns. Okay? First black fighter to win a championship in the 20th century. Now, Walcott had been denied a title shot for many years due to the color of his skin, like I was just telling you. But eventually he got this shot against Ferns and he made the most of it. Okay? And he proved to be a catalyst himself, paving the way for future black stars of the sport to emulate his success, including Joe Gans and Jack Johnson, who came along very shortly after him. Okay? And like I told you later, heavyweight champion Jersey Joe Walcott named himself after Barbados Joe Walcott, who was his hero. And Jersey Joe Walcott regarded Barbados Joe Walcott as the greatest fighter ever. Okay? Now Joe Gans, I don't know how I got my slides mixed up. But yes, this is Joe Gans here. Okay? Joe Gans. Now, in 1902, Joe Gans became the first ever native-born black American to win a world championship. Okay? Because remember, George Dixon was the first black person to win a world championship, but he was Canadian. Now, Joe Gans, the man on the screen, he was the first black American to win a world championship, okay? And he won his by stopping Frank Earn in the first round. He called himself the old master, okay? And, you know, just like George Dixon, he was the first American-born black person to hold a world championship in any sport. Because remember, George Dixon was Canadian. That was the difference. He was the first black person to win a championship. But Joe Gans was the first black American, okay, in any sport too. Now, in 1904, we go back to Barbados Joe again. In the year 1904, the first world title fight between two black boxers took place. That was between Barbados Joe Walcott on the screen and the Dixie Kid. I couldn't find a picture of the Dixie Kid because, you know, way back there in 1904, you know, it's hard to find these pictures. I could not, I tried, but I couldn't. But Joe Walcott fought against the Dixie Kid in this fight. The first title fight between two black boxers, 1904. Now, it was an important fight, but Walcott lost it to the Dixie Kid. It was a highly controversial fight. You know, Walcott lost by disqualification. And guess what? It was later believed that the referee bet on the Dixie Kid, who won the fight. And the referee disqualified Walcott, right? And he bet on the Dixie Kid. Come on, man. Wow. I wouldn't be surprised with that kind of stuff going on nowadays. But the referee, it's alleged. It wasn't proven, but it was alleged. And it ended in a controversial disqualification of Walcott. And it was alleged that the referee bet on the other guy, the one he gave the fight to, the Dixie Kid. He made sure, that referee made sure he got his money. I ain't playing with y'all. You know, I need this money I bet on this fight. I lose this money, I can't go home. That's my rent money. You know, my wife's gonna put me out. So he made sure that, he said, I bet on Dixie Kid, so I'm just gonna disqualify you. And this and that, I ain't taking no chances, Barbados Joe. But ain't that something? But anyway, after Walcott's loss in 1910, that's when Jack Johnson became the heavyweight champion. Okay. And I've had a picture of Jack Johnson, but I don't know what happened to it. I was going through my slides and I said, where's Jack Johnson at? But I don't have it. But anyway, he came along after that fight, after the first two black men fought for a championship. Jack Johnson came along, and he became the focus of the 1910s. He made history by becoming boxing's first ever African-American world heavyweight champion. Okay, because those other guys are in the lower weight classes. I believe Gantz was the first black American, was a lightweight, and Dixon was way down there like featherweight or something. When Dixon first started, the Canadian guy, black guy, he was like 87 pounds in his first fight. Yeah. So Jack Johnson became the first ever black world heavyweight champion. You know, he had to go over to Australia to do it. Remember that? You heard that story. Tommy Burns gave him the shot, the Australian guy. And check this out. He stopped Tommy Burns to win the title, right? And after the fight was in Australia. After the fight, the police ordered all footage of the fight to be destroyed because they believe there should be no record of a black man knocking out a white man, right? So they just destroyed all the footage because the black man knocked the white man out. They said, no, we can't have no record of nothing like that happening. But they had to give it happened because Jack Johnson became the world heavyweight champion. But there was no record of it. To this day, you can find no footage of that fight. They destroyed it. You might find a picture or something, you know, that somebody got out of there. They didn't catch or something, you know. But anyway, on July 4th, 1910, Jack Johnson went up against James J. Jeffries. Jeffries was nicknamed the Great White Hope. Okay. This fight was seen as one of the most important of the young century. It was still early in the 1900s, remember? And the fight was billed. This was the first fight of the century. Okay. This was the original fight of the century. You know, Ali and Frazier, that's the second one. So this fight tackled the discrimination that was growing worse in the boxing community. As bad as it was going worse. And Johnson won the fight. He cemented himself as a heavyweight champion, which they won over Jeffries, okay? But Jeffries was a well thought of. And he was challenging Johnson, you know, and Johnson beat him. So he really cemented himself as a champion at that point. They were like, oh, that black man got lucky. Jeffries gonna go in there and knock him out. But Johnson got it done. That's when everybody really started to believe in it. And Johnson's achievements in the sport of boxing set him up as a solid and dedicated competitor, transcending the limitations of what was white society believed a black individual could be capable of achieving. Johnson became the symbol of the turning point that was taking place in America's sports culture. Although there was still resistance to the advances being made, Johnson's win over Jeffries in the fight of the century led to race riots all across the United States. Okay. Now, Johnson was arrested in 1912 for transporting a white woman across state lines. Wow, you can tell they just invented that one on the spur of the moment. Wow. Transporting a white woman across state lines. And he wasn't officially pardoned until over a century later in 2018. Donald Trump pardon. Okay, 2018, posthumous. He had to flee to France or somewhere for like 7 years. Right? And Johnson transcended boxing to become a cultural icon with an impact still felt to this day. Okay? Moving on. It's not too loud, I don't think. What's going on with my lights? Okay. Okay, Joe Louis. Let's talk about the Brown Bomber next, okay? Now, Joe Louis. I keep losing my place. Sorry. Yeah, Jack Johnson wasn't pardoned until 2018. Now, over a decade after Johnson's reign, Joe Louis continued the advancements of black boxing, okay? Now, Joe Louis was a symbolic fighter. He left a lasting legacy in the ring and also made a huge impact out of the ring. He was one of the most culturally significant champions in boxing history at the height of his power, okay? Now, Joe Louis had the longest single title reign of any boxer in history. 12 years. That still lasts to this day, right now, April 30th, 2024. 12 years is still the longest reign. Okay? Called himself the Brown Bomber. He became only the second ever black world heavyweight champion after Jack Johnson. Okay? And he broke down various racial barriers to become a national hero across America, even bigger than Jack Johnson was. Okay? Now, he became heavyweight champion in 1937 when he knocked out James J. Braddock in the 8th round. Okay? Because fights had went to, the no decision era was over by that point because we had the Walker Law, which got rid of those fights that were going 50 and 60 rounds and all that stuff. Limited to 15 rounds, and then you had judges there to make a decision. Because before the Walker Law, the only way a fight ended was somebody couldn't continue. I heard of one that went 90-something rounds one time, okay? Now, when Louis beat James J. Braddock, that was a groundbreaking moment in African-American history, with thousands of people staying up all night throughout the country in celebration. Because, everybody was like, Jack Johnson had been the only black heavyweight champion to that point. All the people would say, well, that's a fluke. We'll never get another black man do this. So when Joe Louis did it again, that was really a groundbreaking moment, okay? Right? Because people started saying, this might become a regular thing here. So people stayed up all night celebrating when Joe Louis won the World Heavyweight Championship in 1937. Now, one of the most important and influential fights in boxing history happened in 1938 when Joe Louis demolished his German rival Max Schmeling in one round to gain revenge. That was their rematch, and it was a globally anticipated rematch. After that fight, Louis was given national hero status. Okay, and that was the first time a black person had received that type of status nationally as a hero all over the country, because it's in the backdrop of World War II and the rise of Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime was looming, okay? And Louis overcame incredible pressure in the lead up to that fight, including he was summoned to the White House for a pep talk from President Franklin Delano Roosevelt himself. Franklin Delano Roosevelt told Joe Louis the free world was riding on him winning that fight. So this immense pressure was on him. And Louis had also put pressure on himself because he had won the championship back that Schmeling took from him, because him and Schmeling wasn't for the championship. Louis had got it back, but he said he wasn't going to call himself champion until he beat Schmeling in a rematch. So he had all that pressure on himself, and then he had the president call him to the White House and tell him the free world was riding on him winning that fight. So yeah, overcame all of that. And Joe Louis also Went on to compete in PGA events. We're going to talk about that later too. Opening the doors for black men and women in all facets of the sports world, right? We're going to talk about that in a little while. Joe Louis competed in golf, big time golf tournament. Okay, let's talk about Henry Armstrong, who he also came along in the 30s. Homicide Hank, right, Al Booger? I like that name. Homicide Hank, Cameron Hank, Hurricane Hank. I like Homicide Hank. Oh, that was good. I had to take a drink. Appreciate everybody rocking with me once again today. Okay. It's Henry Jackson, aka Henry Armstrong, or Homicide Hank. Now, he's considered one of the best fighters pound for pound in the history of the sport, one of the best pound for pound ever. And he made his professional debut in 1931. He was knocked out in the third round in his debut. However, shortly after that, Armstrong began an awesome run. He achieved the status as the first man to hold world titles in 3 weight classes at one time. And I've told you this before. What was so significant about that? He was champion in 3 weight classes at one time, but there were only 8 weight classes then. We didn't have the juniors and the supers. We just had straight, lightweight, welterweight on up. 8 weight classes. He was champion in 3 of them at one time, and he missed becoming champion in the 4th by fighting to a controversial draw. They thought he won that fight, so he would have been champion in half of the weight classes at one time. And he missed by holding the title in the 4th weight class by fighting to a controversial draw. And between 1938 and 1939, he fought 31 times. He fought 20 times in 1938, 11 in 31, and won every one of them. Okay? And this was a critical moment in black boxing history, as they signified the capability of black athletes in the ring, proving them to be strong and efficient fighters. Okay, that's what Henry Armstrong did for the sport of boxing. Homicide Hank, bad man. 31-0 in 2 years? That's an entire career for a boxer nowadays, right? A boxer might fight 10 years nowadays and don't have 31 fights. This man did it in 2 years and won every one of them. Okay? Move up to Sugar Ray Robinson. Mike Grimm. What's up, Mike Grimm? How are you today? Well, we are talking about highlighting some of the moments in black boxing history today. We're up to the 1940s and Sugar Ray Robinson. There he is on the screen. Sugar Ray. Now, in the 1940s, Sugar Ray Robinson stood up to the mob, remember? And the mob controlled the sport, but Sugar Ray refused to be dictated to by their terms. And that's how bad Sugar Ray was, because the mob didn't bother him. I don't know who that is. It looks like Jay's number. He knows I'm online. That can't be Jay. He knows I'm online. Okay. But yeah, Sugar Ray stood up to the mob, and they didn't bother him. Joy Faint, 757, hashtag JBT in the building. What's up, George Faint? There it is. Salute to George Faints. Black boxing history. Talking about Sugar Ray Robinson right now. How he stood up to the mob and got away with it. A lesser boxer. Something would have happened to him or his family, Not Sugar Ray. Sugar Ray said he's not having it. Okay? He's not fixing any fights. He's not going to fight who they want him to fight. And he got away with it. And Sugar Ray also made a stand against the discrimination of the 1940s by refusing to drop out of his fight against Tommy Bell, because it was a championship fight. And they were still against black men being champions, and wanted Sugar Ray to drop out of the championship fight, but he refused. And he ultimately won the welterweight championship with a win over Bell. and solidified himself in history as being an individual willing to rise above systemic challenges and come out stronger on the other side. Sugar Ray Robinson. Sugar Ray became bigger than boxing and sealed himself as the greatest of all time. That's the man the pound for pound list was invented for. Sugar Ray Robinson. Okay? That's him right there. Sugar Ray. Okay. Now let's talk about these murderous road fighters. Okay? There were a group of guys that were ducked, widely ducked. Like a Boots. Like Hagler was ducked in the 70s, like Boots is ducked now. That's how these guys. And the best one of them, Charlie Burley, kind of remind me of Boots. Check him out. Yeah. These guys were ducked. And most of the fights were in the 40s around the middleweight division. Sugar Ray Robinson even ducked one of them, Charlie Burley. So he had to be a bad man if Sugar Ray Robinson ducked. Yes, he did. Murderous role. Throughout much of the 1940s, 8 African-American boxers, okay? There was Charlie Burley. That's Charlie. There was Eddie Booker. Eddie Booker. There was Jack Chase. There was the Coco Kid. I think he was part black, part Puerto Rican. The Kid. There was Burt Lytell. There was Lloyd Marshall. Aaron Wade. And last but certainly not least. Come on, man. Oh, Lord. I know this thing ain't ready to go out on me. No, okay. I was hitting the wrong button. And last but certainly not least, there was Holman Williams. This should be Holman Williams. Yeah, that's Holman. Okay, that's the murderous road boxer. Now, they were heavily avoided by many other prominent boxers of the era, including the great Sugar Ray Robinson himself, who avoided Burley. Okay, the first guy. You know, he was thought to be the best of the murderous road fighters, Charlie Burley, avoided by Sugar Ray himself. Yeah. There's Burley again. Yeah. 6 of them never received a title shot because of corrupt management and their skin color, okay? Instead, they had to fight each other. To stay active, they had to fight each other. Lloyd Marshall, Coco Kid, Eddie Booker, and Charlie Burley were eventually inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Now, the only title holders out of the group were Jack Chase, who held the California State Heavyweight title and middleweight belts, and Eddie Booker. That's Booker. Eddie Booker, who lost his middleweight title to Chase. Murderous roll. 6. Okay, let me see. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, bear with me for a second. I'm trying to get to my next slide. It should be okay. That's it on murderous row. Okay. Now we're going up into the 50s. Should be Ezra Charles. Yeah, it is Ezra Charles. Oh Lord. Not me. Yeah, it is Ezra Charles. Okay. BN Boxing News in the building. Salute to BN Boxing News. Okay. Everybody hit that like button for me. They're looking kind of light today. People are in the building. So what's up, BN Boxing News? Today is highlights of man, what is this called again? Highlights of Black boxing history. We're up to the 50s. Okay, but salute to BN Boxing News. I know everybody's subscribed to him by now. If you ain't, you're doing yourself a tremendous disservice. We'll correct that disservice and get over there and subscribe. That's all. Okay. Now, that's Ezra Charles on the screen now. On September 27th, 1950, the Linear World Heavyweight Championship passed from one black fighter to another for the first time in boxing history, when Ezra Charles defeated former champion Joe Louis. Okay? Now, Charles was never fully appreciated as a champion for beating Jersey Joe Walcott. And he finally overcame that when he previously retired Joe Louis to gain official recognition. Now, the Joe Louis through the 40s and all of that, Ezra Charles wouldn't have been able to touch him. Nobody would have been able to touch him. I don't even think Muhammad Ali would have, tell you the truth. That Joe Louis, man, because I always say, when you look at the 12-year championship run and those 25 straight title defenses, you got to look at what he was doing while he was doing that period, man. 25 of those title defenses, 25 straight title defenses, 23 of them were stoppages. Only 2 men went the distance with him in 12 years, okay? Just let that, digest that. In 12 years, only 2 men went the distance with him. And then 15 of those 25 were inside of 5 rounds, 6 of them in the first round. And the man was fighting 5, 6, 7 times a year then, remember? That was during that era, okay? And so that's why I call Joe Louis the greatest, because that's greatest type stuff there. That is greatest type stuff. But anyway, Charles finally got the recognition he deserved when he beat Joe Louis. You know, that was Joe Louis, old Joe Louis that came out of retirement. So, but he still beat him. Okay? And Charles has one of the best resumes in boxing history. He got one of them Oscar type resumes. Well, before Oscar, check out some of the names on his resume. Charlie Burley, he was one of the few guys willing to fight those murderous road fighters, along with Archie Moore. I think he fought like 2 of them. But he had Charlie Burley on his resume, Joey Maxim, the Mongoose Archie Moore, Jimmy Bivens, Lloyd Marshall, another murderous road fighter, Jersey Joe Walcott, and the Brown Bomber Joe Louis. Okay? That's an Oscar type resume. You know, the resume Oscar guy, yeah. Yeah. But Ezra Charles. Okay? Now let's be coming up into the 60s now. So you know who we get ready to talk about now. The Has is 5 after 3. I started at 2. I've been on here like 15 minutes. This should be 2:45. It's 3:04. I tell you, man, this time is crazy. I've been on here about 15 minutes, right? I've not been on here no hour. But the clock, I guess I hear that's what the clock says. Okay. Okay, I'm missing a picture too. In 1952, years after his dominant world heavyweight title reign, Joe Louis began breaking barriers in another sport. Okay. Yeah, we're not too early yet. I told you it's going to talk about when he got into golf. Okay. The Brown Bomber became the first ever black golfer to play a PGA sanctioned tournament. On January 17, 1952, Louis proved that taking a stand works. He played in the San Diego Open, paving the way for other black professional golfers to make their mark in the sport, long before Tiger Woods. But Tiger Woods said he wasn't black anyway, so hell with it. Sports writer, but if Joe Louis wouldn't have did that, Tiger Woods, no matter what color he is, he might not have never been in golf, okay? Sports writer Jimmy Cannon said about Louis, he's a credit to his race, the human race. I like that. He's a credit to his race, the human race. But the hell with Tiger Woods, whatever he is. Okay? Now, in and out of the ring, Cassius Clay. stood as a figure of racial pride, joining forces with human rights activist Malcolm X to rally for integration. In 1962, the pair met for a Black Muslim rally in Detroit and began their iconic friendship. Okay? And then, I don't even have to talk about that dominant run Ali had in the 60s. This is just highlights of Black history. Move up to 1967, a little older. And after dominating the heavyweight division for the entire decade of the 60s up to that point, Muhammad Ali was banned from boxing after his military draft refusal due to his opposition to the Vietnam War and his affiliation with the Nation of Islam. Okay? The greatest was convicted of draft evasion and stripped of his heavyweight titles. Yep. He was out of the ring for like 3 years. He came back in 1970. Yeah, I don't know. These pictures be shifting or something. Okay. Now, on March 8th, 1971. Okay? No sporting event has ever had the kind of popular culture significance that the first fight between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier had. Now, this was the second, because the original fight of the century was Jack Johnson and, what was the guy's name? Somebody help me out. The original White Hope. Oh, man, I gotta know. Bear with me for a second. Jack Johnson. Damn, Cash, you're supposed to be the box story. You ain't supposed to have to refer to your notes for this type of stuff. You're supposed to know it. Not James J. Braddock, the other guy. Don't leave, though. I'm sorry. James J. Jeffries. Sorry about that. I was thinking James J. Jeffries, too. But that was the first fight of the century. Now, Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali was the second fight of the century. Okay. Now, both of these heavyweight kings were assigned opposing roles on the political and cultural spectrum. Now, what I don't understand is they drafted Ali. He was against the war. Frazier supported the war, and in this fight, he was a big hero of the war people. So why the hell didn't they draft Joe Frazier? Right? He was the war people's big hero and everything against Ali. Why ain't he gonna fight in the damn war then? Right? Hold on. Yeah. But yeah, in the end, it was Frazier's night. Frazier beat him that night. Yep. That was the biggest of all three of the fights, too. Then, October 30th, 1974, Muhammad Ali stunned George Foreman with an 8th round knockout win in the Rumble in the Jungle. Okay? This was another significant cultural event fight, and the fight resonated beyond sports. Don King. That was Don King around that time. Okay? Don King built a festival around the fight, featuring soul icon James Brown and blues legend B.B. King, two of the biggest stars in music around that period. Okay, yeah, and he had this event at a soccer stadium in Zaire. The night was later the subject of an Oscar-winning documentary, When We Were Kings. Yep, that's a pretty good movie too. A movie was made out of it. Came out in the 90s. Okay. Next. I went backwards. Ali Foreman. Next was Larry Holmes and Jerry Cooney. This is just like a highlight going through Black boxing history. Nothing deep. Okay. June 11th, 1982, Larry Holmes defended his world heavyweight title against Jerry Cooney in Las Vegas. Now, racial overtones surrounded the fight, led by Don King. himself, trying to sell the fight. Now, Cooney deflected such talk. Cooney seemed like he just wanted to fight, okay? Now, Holmes won the fight by knockout in the 13th round. And they made a big deal because Cooney's team was wearing shirts that said, not the white man, the right man. But what's wrong with that? I see anything wrong with that. Not the white man, the right man, yeah. They was just trying to deflect away from the race thing that Don King was leading, trying to make it into, right? Yeah. But Cooney just wanted to fight. Okay? He wouldn't answer any questions about the race part or anything like that, yeah. And Holmes ended up knocking Cooney out in the 13th round. And after the fight, Holmes and Cooney became very close friends and still are to this day. And don't forget, at 3:45, we're having a preview on the hashtag Let's Talk Fashion. Okay. Now remember, I'm telling you about Jack Johnson got pardoned. In 2018, legendary heavyweight boxer and barrier breaker Jack Johnson received a presidential pardon posthumously over 100 years after a baseless sentencing, criminally convicting him in 1913 for transporting a white woman across state lines. Yes, when they made that up on the spot. Oh, that's Jack Johnson. They following him. What can we do? It looked like he got a white woman in there. Let's talk. Transporting a white woman across state lines. That's crazy. But anyway, U.S. President Donald Trump signed a posthumous pardon for Johnson, clearing him of the criminal conviction. Okay. Then in 2019, that's Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor unveiled a new headstone at the resting place of pioneering bare knuckle champion Tom Molyneux, thought of as the first black boxer. Okay, he was a bare knuckles guy. For over 2 centuries, Molyneux had laid in an unmarked grave at St. George James Cemetery in Galway, Ireland, where he had spent his final days of remarkable life. Okay, Katie Taylor from Ireland, Irish boxer, put a headstone there, signifying where his final resting place is at. Yep. Now let's look at boxing and human rights. Okay. Here's Tom Molyneux in later life after boxing. Still just another drawing, as you can see. Where are my lights? Oh. Okay. Yeah, boxing and human rights. Let's talk about that for a minute. Excuse me for 1 moment, please. Okay. Yeah. Boxing and human rights. Here's Muhammad Ali. He's Muhammad Ali and Nelson Mandela, 2 big-time human rights activists. Boxing and human rights. Now, the introduction of Black individuals into boxing during the early half of the 20th century laid the foundation for solid figures of justice who used their position in sport to fight for human rights equality. Muhammad Ali was another significant name in boxing human rights, in boxing's human rights journey. Okay, he worked with Malcolm X through boxing to rally for racial pride and acceptance. Ali's dedication in the ring was a testament to his character and ability, as he continually advocated for the rights of Black individuals in sports, as well as others outside of sports. Okay. Today, boxing is a sport that all individuals worldwide can be involved in, with less fear of systemic disadvantages. Everyone with a passion for sports is encouraged to participate and will be acknowledged and accepted. Now, we're just going to dig a little deeper into Thomas Molyneux, who was thought to be the first Black boxer. Okay? We're going to dig a little deeper into his career. And, how he got out of slavery and all this and all that. Okay. Thomas Mullino. There we go. Let's get him back up here. There's Thomas. Okay. Now, yeah, stick around because at about a half hour, we're going to get the preview for tomorrow's Let's Talk hashtag Let's Talk Fashion from Remo. He's supposed to have another fire one, of course. Thomas Mullino. Now, we're going to dig a little deeper into it. His actual birth date was, he was born in 1784, right? And he lived till 1818. What's that? 34 years, yeah. Now, he was born to enslaved parents on a Virginia plantation, okay? And the plantation's owner's name was Mullino, and that's where Thomas got his name from, right? Just, that was a common thing. All the slaves took their master's last name. Mm-hmm. Now, because of Thomas's size and strength, like I told you, they would have slaves from different plantations come together and fight each other. And people would put on their Sunday's best and come from miles around to see this, right? And on this particular plantation, Thomas was a big guy, and he was very strong. And because of those two things, he was selected to be one of the prize fighters for this plantation. And he had a natural knack for boxing. So yeah, that was a good selection. They loved him. Like I said, he would compete against enslaved men from neighboring plantations, right? And that was a practice that was common during that era. Okay? So yeah, boxing was big time during slavery too. Okay? Now, the plantation owners would often bet substantial sums of money on these fighters. And the way Thomas won his freedom, like I was telling you, his master's son bet $100,000 on him in a fight, right? In the 1700s, $100,000 was the equivalent of about $3 million today in 2024, right? And so after Thomas won his master's son all that money, right, they awarded him his freedom. Because that's how a slave could win his freedom, if he won his master enough money. So Thomas won his master's son $100,000 then, which is equal to $3 million now. So they gave Thomas his freedom and gave him a present of $500, which is worth $12,000 today. And I was like, wow, you won $3 million, only gave the man $12,000. But I was looking at it as a black person from 2024. But to an enslaved person, that $12,000 was a lot. Or $500 equal to $12,000. And plus he got his freedom. So to a black person in 1700, that's like a gold mine. So yeah, I'm looking at it from the wrong perspective, right? So it is what it is. But anyway, yeah. So they set him free because he won them all that money. They've set for life after that. $3 million. Well, 100,000, but at that time, it's equivalent to what $3 million is today. So after he was granted his freedom, he first moved to New York, okay? And that's where he began prize fighting. And he was good at it. He was very successful. Now he was winning money and everything, not just fighting slaves from other plantations, winning money for his master and his family. He was getting his own money now. Plus he had that $500 that his master had gave him. He was looking pretty good. And his wins, he started calling himself the champion of America in 1809. Mm-hmm. And then that same year, he sailed to England to challenge Tom Cribb. And Tom Cribb was generally thought of as the champion of the world, okay? Nothing official, but, everybody just thought of him as that because Tom Cribb was beating everybody. So, on December 18th, 1810, Mullino fought Cribb for the championship. Now in the 28th round, let's listen to this now. Listen closely. In the 28th round, Molyneux appeared to have knocked Cribb out when Cribb was unable to respond. Now Cribb's team, his seconds, manager, trainer, all of them, ran across the ring and complained to the referee that Molyneux had been hiding some bullets in his fist, some lead bullets in his fist. How ridiculous does that sound? Now, while the referee was checking Molyneux and made sure that the accusation was straight nonsense, Cribb recovered and was allowed to continue. Now, I always joke about if somebody ever knocked Canelo out, they would revive him. Because you know how to cheat for Canelo. I said, somebody knocked Canelo out, they're going to revive him and let him continue. That actually happened in this fight. He had the man knocked out. And his seconds ran over, they made up some bullshit excuse and gave him time to recover. And the referee let him continue, right? So now that was the 28th round. 3 rounds later in the 31st round, Molyneux's head struck a stake in the ground when he tripped over Cribb after throwing him down to the ground. But yeah, you could do wrestling holds, throw down, kick, all kinds of stuff back in those days. So he had thrown Cribb to the ground and he tripped over him and hit his head on a metal spike. Now he was semi-conscious and unable to defend himself. And 2 rounds later, he announced he could fight no more. Right? And that fight would go down as one of the most unfairly contested championship fights in England's history. Okay? Even worse than Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall. Yeah, but that was ridiculous. Now, they did have a rematch. They had a rematch the next year, September 28th, 1811. And Cribb knocked him out because Molyneux came into that one poorly trained and out of shape. And he got knocked out in the 9th round in that one. And Cribb kept his title. Okay. And Molyneux's career came to an end 4 years later when he lost to George Cooper. Okay. Now, he died penniless in Galway, Ireland on August 4th, 1818. And like I told you earlier, he was buried in an unmarked grave in Galway, Ireland. And it stayed that way for 200 years until 2019 when when boxer Katie Taylor, who is from Ireland, unveiled a new headstone to be placed there. Okay. There you have it. Thomas Molyneux was an integral part of Black boxing history. Okay. There you have it. And don't forget, in about 15 minutes, we're going to have the preview. I'm going to drop the link in about 5 minutes. But tomorrow is boxing in New York. We're going to look at a history of boxing in New York. And we're going to look at some venues. And we're going to look at a few of the boxers from New York. So a few of the top boxers from New York. Okay? That's tomorrow. And Thursday is going to be the legendary Kronk Gym. Okay? And we're going to talk about the legendary Emanuel Stewart, who founded the Kronk Gym. And his daughter now runs the Kronk Gym, Emanuel Stewart's daughter. And they have a new Kronk Gym in I don't know how new it is now, but they have another newer Kronk Gym in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah. We're going to talk about all that Thursday. And then Friday is the profile. Oh, why is today so slow? Friday is the profile. Sugar Ray Leonard. Okay, I'm going to drop the link in there. And we're going to chop it up. Everybody hit that like button, please. Missing some likes there. Yeah. But it's all good. Okay. I'm going to drop the link. Remo's going to come like 4:45 if he's not busy. And we're going to see what's happening on hashtag Let's Talk Fashion tomorrow. Yeah. But I'm gonna put the link in now if anybody wants to chop it up. Yeah, but black boxing history, okay, significant. Like George Dixon, the first black man to win a boxing championship. And he was the first black athlete to win any kind of championship, world championship, okay? But he was Canadian, remember? So then, what is going on here? So then the first black American to win the world boxing championship was Joe Gans. Bear with me for a minute. I figure out what's going on here. Where are my slides at? Yeah, Joe Gans was the first one to first black American to be a boxing champion. There's George Dixon. He was the first black man to win a boxing championship, a black person to win any kind of championship in sport. And then Joe Gans, he was the first black American to win a boxing championship. And the first black person to win a championship in any sport was Joe Gans, okay? Just review what we went over today real quick. And then Barbados Joe Walcott, who Jersey Joe Walcott changed his name to. This is Barbados Joe. He was the first black man to win a boxing championship in the 20th century, once the century had changed, okay? Then, all Jack Johnson accomplished. First black heavyweight champion and all that. Then Joe Louis came along. Joe Louis was actually the second black heavyweight champion, okay? And had that 12-year run, remember? As champion, 12 straight years, 25 straight title defenses in those 12 years. Over those 12 years, he had only 2 men went the distance with him, remember? Now, remember, a few of those years in the 40s, he had stopped boxing and went to the war, okay? But if he hadn't, he still probably wouldn't have been beat by anybody, And then Henry Armstrong came along, you know what he did. This man, between 1938 and 1939, had 31 fights, went 31-0. At a time where there were only 8 weight divisions, he was champion in 3 of them at one time. He missed being champion in 4. He got cheated, and he really won the fight, but they called it a draw. So the champion, he was going for middleweight, but the champ, I can't remember who he fought. The champion kept his belt. But if he had won that fight, he would have been champion in half of the weight divisions at one time. Okay? And he still was champion in 3 of them, 3 of the 8. And remember the 2-year stretch, he went 31-0. That's an entire career nowadays. 20 fights in 38, 11 in 39. Then the great Sugar Ray Robinson came along. Know what he did? He had 2 Hall of Fame careers. You can look at what he did in the 40s and put him in the Hall of Fame. He could have retired at the end of the 40s and been in the Hall of Fame, or he could have not fought in the 40s and just from what he did in the 50s, been in the Hall of Fame. Sugar Ray Robinson. Then Ezzard Charles came along, and Ezzard took the title from Jersey Joe Walcott after Jersey Joe was the next champion after Joe Louis. The murderous road boxers, you know what they did. They were ducked by everybody. They were a group of guys, man, that just Charlie Burley right there, he was ducked by Sugar Ray Robinson himself. person. It was 8 murderers road boxers. Nobody wanted to fight him. Ollie Burley, Eddie Booker, Jack Chase, the Coco Kid. He was part black, part Puerto Rican. Burt Lytell, Lloyd Marshall, Evan Wade, and last but certainly not least was Holman Williams. Okay. Then Ezzard Charles came along, right? He didn't get the credit because he was the second champion. At Jersey Joe Walcott, then him. He didn't get the credit after Joe Louis. You know, everybody missed the Brown Bomber. So then he beat Jersey Joe for the title, but then Joe Louis came out of retirement and Ezzard Charles beat him. So, you know, he finally got his recognition when he beat Joe Louis. Okay. And then Cassius Clay came along. I know what he did. That gold medal in the 60s. And then he beat the big bad bear Sonny Liston when nobody gave him a chance. Okay. That was just as big as when Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. For the people that was around at that point, just think about how big that was when Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. That was the same situation when Muhammad Ali beat Sonny Liston. Okay. So then, let me put this link in here. We're gonna get a preview on hashtag. And this is not just for Remo. This is for anybody who wants to come up. And then we had Muhammad Ali in the. He dominated the 60s all the way to 67, and then he became a Muslim. And being a black Muslim around that time was like a very negative thing, man. They just didn't want a black Muslim. They didn't want a Muslim. You know, black boxers were accepted by then as being champions, but they just couldn't stomach the Muslim part of it. So they had to get rid of Ali. So they drafted, like I was saying, Joe Frazier. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. So they drafted him and got him out of boxing and got that title off from him, you know. But, you know, we go to this fight, 71 with Joe Frazier. Now, Joe Frazier supported the war. And in this fight against Ali, all the war people was behind Joe Frazier. So why the hell didn't they draft Joe Frazier? Huh? That's what I don't understand. All of y'all big-time Vietnam War people was behind Joe Frazier to beat Ali. Joe Frazier said he believed in the war effort. So why didn't they just draft? Joe Frazier should have went and fought in the damn war then. Okay. Put the link in, though. It's okay. And, yeah. But that was a very trying time for the country, that Vietnam nonsense. We had the civil rights going on, then all those assassinations. First, John Kennedy, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Robert F. Kennedy, John Kennedy's brother. The country was just turmoil. And all through all that, Vietnam. I had a brother went over. He made it back though, but he was half crazy when he came. Not half crazy. He was crazy when he came back. Yeah. We had a door on the front screen door, like the hinge was off or something. If you didn't hold it, it would go bam and slam. You know, us kids, we were young then, you know, 5, 6, 7. And my oldest brother, he was like 18, 19. He had been to Vietnam. They were sending him over there young, man, 18 years old. He wasn't old enough to drink, but you could go fight a war. So when he came back, we'd be sitting in the front room and one of the kids would come in and let the door slam shut. Bam! He would jump up and run out the front door, man. It was just a crazy time. And young kids were coming back like that all over the country, you know. It was just a terrible time for us, for the United States. And that was the backdrop of that Frazier-Ali fight. And Frazier was a big-time war people hero, so why the hell didn't y'all draft Joe Frazier? Took his ass on over there and fought, you know? Well, here comes the link. And we're going to get Remo about 3:45, whatever he get ready to come up. But this is not just for Remo. Anybody, come on up. I can get it in there. And then after that, we had Ali Foreman. That was another big one that they didn't give Ali a chance. He put the rope-a-dope on that dope. would put the rope-a-dope on Foreman. But I mean, he was a dope because he went for it. Angelo Dundee was, get off the ropes, Ali, get off the rope, begging him. Bruce Gas, boxing, jazz, and more. Joe tried to join. What was wrong with him? Let's see, Bruce Gas, Joe tried to join 4 times and was refused. Why? He could get in there and box and they wouldn't let him in the war. That's crazy. Damn. I did not know that. Thank you, Bruce Gas. Bruce Gas says Joe Frazier tried to join 4 times and it was refused. Damn. Okay, here comes the link. And then, George Foreman in, what was that? 74, something like that. Was next, him and Ali. And that was a big upset because nobody gave Ali. Foreman was just destroying people. He knocked Frazier out in the 2nd round, knocked him down 6 times, right? So when Ali was going up against him, they was like, what is Ali going to do? He doesn't have a chance. Ali went in there and beat him off of the rope-a-dope. Yep. And then we had, Don King made a big, had a big concert and stuff over there. James Brown, B.B. King. 2 big-time performers from that era. Was the headliners of it. Had a whole lot of good acts over there. Concert was centered around the fight. There's Don King from back then, yeah. And then Holmes and Cooney, racial overtones of that, led by Don King. But Cooney just wanted to fight. He didn't want to be interviewed about the racial part of it or nothing. He just wanted to fight. Yeah. Him and Holmes are close friends to this day. They became friends after the fight. Mm-hmm. Close friends to this day. Fred Hampton, who is that, Al Booker? I'm going to pin this link. Oh, okay. Who is Fred Hampton, Al Booker? I heard that name. I can't place it. What happened to it? Oh. Yeah. Fred Hampton. This sounds familiar, but I just can't place it. I don't know what. I think it's about time for a new phone. Yeah, but there's the link for anybody. Remo gonna come up in about 5 minutes or so, I guess. If he ain't busy at work. Yeah, this. If he's not too busy at work, he'll come up and give us a preview on tomorrow's hashtag Let's Talk Fashion. But salute Bruce Gas is in the building. And Bruce says Joe tried to join 4 times, but they wouldn't let him. Wow. Okay. So that's why he didn't go fight. He tried. Bruce Gas says he tried. And I tried to pin the link. Oh, shit, I'm hitting my own damn link. You can't do that, Cass. There we go. Okay, we're good. But everybody, okay, hope y'all enjoyed the show. Yeah, Fred Hampton. Right, okay, that's right, Albert. I got it now, yeah. I was wondering who that was for a minute there, but yeah, I got you now. Fred Hampton. Yeah. He was an activist too, right? Yeah. Yeah, sometimes YouTube play games. I don't think they're registering my likes properly. Yeah. Because usually I had like 26, 27 by now. And the same amount of people are in here. It's YouTube. One day I had 27 likes. The next morning I had 11. Then the next morning the 27 was back. Yeah. But tomorrow is boxing in New York. History of it. And some of the top fighters, they come out of New York. It's a Remo idea. I told you I gotta follow those Find your hashtag Let's Talk Fashions on Wednesday. So I'm gonna do all Remo ideas every Wednesday. Behind his fire hashtag Let's Talk Fashion. We'll find out what he thinks about that in a couple minutes. And anybody else. So we got like 15 minutes before 4 o'clock. Then we got to get out of here. But I always appreciate everybody rocking with me. Appreciate the support. Need the support. Oh yeah, and Thursday is the Kronk Gym. We're gonna talk about the Kronk Gym. Okay? Out there in Detroit, Michigan. And Emmanuel Stewart's daughter runs the Kronk Gym now. Yeah. Yeah. Emmanuel Stewart's daughter runs the Kronk Gym. I think her name is Sylvia or Sheila. One of them. Yep. And we're going to talk about Emmanuel Stewart a little tomorrow, too. Tyson Fury trained some at the Kronk Gym, and a lot of fighters came through there. Julio Cesar Chavez, Hector Camacho went through there. I know Thomas Hearns grew up there. Milt McCrory, Mark Breland. What's the guy named is Chavez? They stopped the fight with 2 seconds. What's his name? Meldrick Taylor, I think. Came out of that old Kronk Gym. Oh man, I hope I didn't hide nobody or take somebody's wrench, because I just seen that message. I'm always hitting something by accident. So if anybody's wrench disappeared, let me know. I'll give it right back. I had hit Jay Hardcore one time, remember? Yeah. Okay, yeah. And then remember Katie Taylor, Thomas Mullinow was laying an unmarked grave for 200 years. That's KT there. She's from Ireland, and he was buried in Galway, Ireland, where he lived the last years of his life. And she put a headstone on his grave, so it's now marked. His final resting place is now marked. That was in 2019. She's from Ireland. Nice gesture by her. And he's thought of to be the first black boxer, you know. And remember Jack Johnson in 2018 was pardoned by President Donald Trump posthumously for his crimes. He was the BS crimes he was convicted for way back in 1913, I believe. And yeah, he was pardoned by the president posthumously over 100 years after. But he was pardoned. That's the only thing that counts. Yeah. Yep. Trying to find the date. I don't even know where it's at now. Let's see, Jack Johnson. Yeah, it was pardoned by Donald Trump. Here it is, right here. He was convicted in 1913, pardoned in 2018, 105 years later. But he was pardoned. That's the main thing. Yeah, transporting white women across state lines. Yeah, get him for something. He was the first black heavyweight champion. Just like they got Ali for the draft thing, they had to make up something, you know. But it's all good. It's just, the sign of the times that we've been living in. You know, it's 2024 now, but it's still history. But I appreciate everybody for coming by for the show. Tomorrow is boxing in New York, and it's the Let's Talk Fashion tomorrow. And Thursday, Kronk Gym. Friday is Sugar Ray Leonard, the profile. We're going to talk about Sugar Ray, one of the Four Kings. Sugar Ray had the most Four Kings fights. There was 9 total Four Kings fights, remember? Sugar Ray was in 6 of them. He was in the first Four Kings fight that started the series, and he was in the one that ended the series. Him and Roberto Duran. was Sugar Ray Leonard versus Roberto Duran was the first Four Kings fight in 1980. And in 1989, the last year of the 80s, Sugar Ray Leonard versus Roberto Duran was the final Four Kings fight. Roberto Duran won the first one, Sugar Ray Leonard won the last one. And 7 legendary fights in between. Yeah. 4 to 9 didn't go the distance. The Hitman was involved in 3 of them. The Hitman stopped Duran and got stopped by Pagler and Sugar Ray. I don't really consider that second Duran-Leonard fight a stoppage because Duran stopped himself. He quit. He stopped fighting. But Duran made a nice comeback. He came back and became a world champion in the 80s after that. So he made a nice comeback from it. Yeah, he sure did. He retired after that fight, but he said he couldn't go out on a note like that. And I don't blame him. I'm glad he came. One of my favorite fighters. I'm glad he came back and redeemed himself, because that would have been our last thoughts of Roberto Duran, and that would have been terrible. After that 1970s run he had, to be remembered as his last fight as quitting like that? No, he had to come back out of retirement and fix that, which he did. Because that 70s run rivals Joe Louis in the 40s and Ali in the 60s. He only lost one time in the 70s, Roberto Duran, to Esteban de Jesus, the crafty Esteban de Jesus. But he came back and beat him twice. Okay? So, yeah. Roberto Duran. The Hands of Stone. Yeah, wouldn't that have been terrible if Roberto Duran would have stayed in retirement after that second Sugar Ray fight, and that would be our memory of him? Wow. He had to come back and fix that, which he did. I think he became one world championships in one more, because he was a 3-division champion. He already was lightweight and welterweight. I think he won it in junior middleweight. I don't know. Bruce Gasser, correct. But I know he became a champion again after that no Mars debacle. That would have been just terrible. I would have been hurt if he would have not came back and fixed that, which he did. He made a nice comeback from that. Thank you, Roberto. Yeah. He has some kind of heart condition or something now. I don't think it's too serious, but yeah, something with his heart. I talked about that in his profile. Him and Sugar Ray are close friends now. Yeah, Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah. Just like Joe Louis and Max Schmeling ended up being close friends. Max Schmeling was a pallbearer at Joe Louis's funeral. And Larry Holmes and Jerry Cooney are very close now. These guys get in there and battle with each other. You get a certain respect for a guy, man, you know? After going in there trying to take his head off, you know, you start liking the guy after that. You know? And Sugar Ray and Duran had 3 battles. Well, 2. That third one, I don't know what that was. But they had two good battles. 3, really. Yeah, they had 3 fights. Yeah. And now very close friends. That is so nice. But the Hands of Stone in the 70s, man, was something to see. Unbeatable. He only lost once. And he revenged that 2 times over. Beat Esteban de Jesus twice. Yep. Yeah. The Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran, one of my favorites. And then, like Coach Thomas Morris was saying yesterday, there was a 5th king, Wilfred Benitez. But there's only 4 kings in the deck. Salute, Miss Joette. How are you today? Good to see you, Miss Joette in the building. Yeah, we're doing okay. Hope you're enjoying your day, Miss Joette. It's a beautiful day down here in Maryland. I know the weather's getting to be great up there in Canada too. Yeah. I hope you're having a good day, Miss Joette. You deserve it. You're a very nice person. And she's in the building. Yeah, salute to Miss Joette, everybody. Yeah, don't forget tomorrow we have boxing in New York. Thursday is the Crunk Jim, Friday Sugar Ray Leonard, and we got it's still early in the day. We got The Voice coming up in 10 minutes. Still early in the JBT day. I'm only the second act. We got The Voice. We got Jay Hardcore will be back in the hangout at 8. And the Mighty Rise podcast at 9 p.m. So you still got some great stuff coming up in the JBT. Remo must have got busy at work again. Yeah. He's at work, so you know. But remember, tomorrow at 10 p.m. there's another hashtag Let's Talk Fashion. It's gonna be fire. That's why tomorrow when I have to follow it, the show is a Remo idea. That's every Wednesday now. Remo gave me a lot of ideas for shows, and on Wednesdays after hashtag Let's Talk Fashion, I'm gonna be doing Remo idea shows every Wednesday. So tomorrow, the boxing in New. Well, he told me he would like to see a show on talk about some boxers from New York. But then I said, well, let's just do the history of boxing in New York, and then talk about some of the boxers that came out of New York. Yeah, and we're gonna talk about the Garden a little bit, the old Polo Grounds, Yankee Stadium, and Barclays. Still getting them great fights at Barclays. That's where Ryan Garcia whipped Devin Haney's butt at Barclays. Yeah, put him down 3 times and embarrassed him. That's where Ryan embarrassed Devin at Barclays. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I believe he broke. Didn't he break his jaw? It sure looked like it. That thing wasn't sitting right when he was talking funny when he came for the post-fight interview. Devin, he was talking funny. Yeah, I believe he broke his jaw. Broke his spirit, I know that. Their first knockdown did it. He was trying to get himself back together, but then he got another left hook and put him right back to where he was after the first left hook. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Mm-hmm. That was a great day. I mean, nothing against Devin, but you know, his fans just rubbed me the wrong way. You know, they talk like he was the next greatest thing since sliced bread was invented. You know, and I just enjoyed it, and it shut them up a little bit. But you know, they're talking about Ryan cheated because he came in over 3 pounds. They okay with Devin rehydrating 25 pounds against Regis. Nothing was said about that. And don't you think Ryan came in over 3 pounds, but by Saturday night, they were both way over 3 pounds, over 140, right? But somebody came in there and out-rehydrated Devin, out-bullied the weight bully. So now it's a problem. But when Devin was 165 fighting at almost super middleweight against Regis, it was fine and dandy. But when Ryan came in 3 pounds over, now it's a problem. And then I heard this one 10 million subscriber channel talking about referee Harvey Dock wouldn't let Devin fight inside. What? Last time I checked, all Devin was doing inside was holding on for dear life. You know? And it looked like he was trying to fight inside. He was holding on for dear life. Right? So, they better, Bill had to take that talking point back from his channels because that one didn't work. That was the talking point. Harvey Dock wouldn't let him fight inside. And all the man was trying to fight to get his arms around Ryan's neck as quick as he could when they got inside, holding on for dear life. Yeah. That's why Ryan popped him on the break. Get off of me. And then one judge had it a draw or something. Yeah. And that was ridiculous. Even with the point deduction for Ryan, that wasn't no draw, man. No way. That was not a draw. It was a wide unanimous decision. Devin did some things in there, but still got his ass whipped. Yeah, and there's nowhere for him to go. He can't go to 47 because all those guys up there are bigger than Ryan, and some real hitters up there, killers up there, man. So what is Devin going to do up there? To go up there and have the same thing happen to him? I think Burriers would beat him. Stanionis. Oh, come on, man. What is Devin going to do against those guys? And Barroso was treated unfairly. Barroso had a title eliminator for Rolly's belt, but then he fought Pitbull. What was the title eliminator for? But yeah, they don't want no 50-year-old man to have the title. I understand that. They would rather Rolly or Pitbull had it, so they couldn't let Barroso fight for it. Okay. But it's time for me to get out of here. The voice is next. Okay. Miss Joette, Bruce Gas Boxing, Jazz, and more. BN Boxing News. George Banks, 757, hashtag JBT. Mike Grimm. Lonnie Lee, hashtag JBT. Mike Mason. Thomas Hill, hashtag JBT. Melanin Queen 27. Had two of the queens of the JBT. No, three of them. Miss Joette, Melanin Queen 27, and Miss Cass, hashtag JBT. In here today. Three of the queens of the JBT. Ray Patterson, the Boxing Menu Podcast Plus. Al Booger, and Miss Cass, hashtag JBT. And once again, I appreciate everybody for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed this show. I enjoyed bringing it to you. Tomorrow, Boxing in New York. Don't miss that one. Another good one. But let's get ready to go over here and see what the Voice building on today. Cass Sports, y'all.